WHGE 95.3 FM coming up. The Open Eye.
Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego diddling. We do so because the chains of oppression on our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host, Third Eye Optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, ready to get them started, ready to get that eye open. Are you ready for some education? All right. As we always start off, every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. And we definitely need to do that. Let me get my disclaimer out the way and I'll be right with you. All right.
The views and opinions expressed on the Open Eye are those of the host, guests, and contributors and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
All right, let's get them started. Let's start right here. Hey, Roger, I see you, brother. All right. You know, we ain't a shark species. We really not. We kill each other over arguments about what happens when you die, then fail to see the irony in that. That's just nuts. But that's what we get caught up in when we believe the mythology and take it seriously. Because if heaven was real in the way it's explained in the Bible, white people would have kept the Bible for themselves and far away from us, like they do with land and wealth. You know, if religion were the key to morality, then mega churches would look more like charities and less like $1 million businesses. Hey, Sister Ruth, I see you. You know, if the Christian religion that we got from white folks is true, then how come they ain't worried about going to hell for mistreating us? Because they sure as hell ain't. Yeah, that's word. You know, and I understand where it comes from. You know a little history. You understand that it was Pope Gregory, whatever number he was, decided that we were less than human. Therefore, it was right to enslave us. All right. You know, we have a wealth of talent in our community. Sometimes we don't recognize that, you know, and it's not new. It's not new. Listen to this. Some of you may know where this comes from. Ego tripping. There may be a reason why. I was born in the Congo. I walked to the Fertile Crescent and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine perfect light. I am bad. I sat on the throne drinking nectar with Allah. I got hot and sent an ice age to Europe to cool my thirst. My oldest daughter is Nefertiti. The tears from my birth pains created the Nile. I'm a beautiful woman. I gazed on the forest and burned out the Sahara Desert. With a packet of goat's meat and a change of clothes, I crossed it in 2 hours. I'm a gazelle so swift you can't catch me. For a birthday present, when he was 3, I gave my son Hannibal an elephant. He gave me Rome for Mother's Day. My strength flows on. My son Noah built an ark, and I stood proudly at the helm as we sailed on a soft summer day. I turned myself into myself and was Jesus. Men intone my loving name. All praises, I am the one who would serve. I sold diamonds in my backyard. My bowels deliver uranium. The filing from my fingernails are semi-precious jewels. On a trip north, I caught a cold and blew. My nose giving oil to the Arab world. I am so hip, even my errors are correct. I sailed west to reach the east and had to turn off the earth as I went. The hair from my head thin and gold laid across 3 continents. I'm so perfect, so divine, so ethereal, so surreal, I cannot be comprehended except by my permission. I mean, I can fly like a bird in the sky. That's ego tripping from the great Nikki Giovanni. She taught us how to ego trip and know that we were loved, all with her signature smile and soul-nourishing words. On Monday, Yolande Cornelia Giovanni Jr., Nikki Giovanni, renowned American poet, writer, commentator, activist, and educator, died at the age of 81. According to WHGE News, Giovanni passed away peacefully with her partner, Virginia Jenny Fowler, close by. Giovanni had previously battled cancer and died of complications from her most recent bout. Born on June 7, 1943 in Knoxville, Tennessee, Giovanni enjoyed a career that lasted more than 5 decades. Hey, Steve. Giovanni's early years were enveloped in closeness to her African-American heritage and a love for literature. She entered Fisk University's early entrance program, beginning college in Nashville, Tennessee, before completing her high school studies. At Fisk, she edited the Student Literary Magazine, renewed the campus chapter, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and went on to graduate with honors with her BA in History in 1967. By the late 1960s, Giovanni was established as one of the leading voices in the Black arts movement and had become known as poet of the Black Revolution. Her first volume of poetry, Black Feeling, Black Talk in 1968 and Black Judgment in 1968 were unapologetically bold, militant, and powerful calls to racial and social justice. Throughout her career, Giovanni also penned many poetry anthologies, children's books, and spoken word albums. Her autobiographical Nikki Rosa poem has been reprinted in numerous collections. Her versatility as a writer was reflected in works such as Spin a Soft Black Song, 1971, and Ego Tripping, which I just read to you, for young people, and other poems for young people, which show Giovanni could write for a younger audience while still tackling challenging themes. Yes, indeed. In 1987, Giovanni joined the faculty of Virginia Tech as a professor of English, teaching creative writing and literature until her retirement in 2022. Her time at Virginia Tech was characterized by her commitment to education and mentorship. After the tragic shooting at Virginia Tech in 2007, Giovanni crafted a powerful chant poem for the memorial capturing the resilience of the community. Giovanni was a recipient of numerous literary and social justice awards, including several NAACP Image Awards, the Langston Hughes Medal, and more than 20 honorary degrees from colleges and universities. In 2005, her album, Nick and Giovanni Poetry Collection, was nominated for the Grammy Best Spoken Word Album. She was also named one of Oprah Winfrey's 25 Living Legends. In the early 1990s, Giovanni battled with lung cancer. Her 1990 collection, Blues, For All the Changes, New Poems, comprises poems on nature and her cancer journey. Giovanni was a proud honorary member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She also worked at Wilmington's People's Settlement in the mid-1960s. Her legacy is one of profound impact on literature, education, social activism, and a larger quest for justice and equality. She is survived by her son, Thomas Watson Giovanni, her wife, Virginia Fowler, granddaughter, Kay Giovanni, amongst other family members. One of Giovanni's quotes from her anthology, The Collection Poetry, 1968 to 1998, speaks perfectly to the writer and the scholar's indomitable spirit. I hope I die warned by the life that I tried to live. Nikki Giovanni, one of our greatest voices. Yes, indeed. WHGE 95.3 FM, Dope and I. Patrice Gibbs here, your third eye optometrist. All right. You know, it's something, oh, yeah, I got it, okay. It's something that so many of us are influenced by the education that we receive in the Western world. And though we mean well, we often get it wrong. Okay? Case in point, the Voice of Africa, who felt that they had a teaching moment. And with their teaching, is that there was a period in Egypt when there were black pharaohs. I'm going to go over some of this for you, okay? And why I say they got it wrong. All right? And I remember, and I wonder if maybe they got it from there. I remember, I think in the 70s, Ebony magazine put out an issue with the cover, The Black Pharaohs. And this is what they say. Did you know that besides the black leaders and queens of ancient Africa, Egypt, there were men that ruled known as the Black Pharaohs? Yes, the Black Pharaohs. Now, who named them the Black Pharaohs? Because you got to remember that Egyptology is not a science. Egyptology is an information control apparatus. That's all it is. Now, you ever heard of Romanology? You ever heard of Britanology or Francenology? Because they don't feel the need to control something that they already have control of, the history of these different empires and countries and what have you, but they have a need to control Egypt. Where did the name Egypt come from? It comes from Greeks, okay? For 3,000 years, Egypt was known as Kemet. And when Egypt was at the low end of its existence, you know, it was really ready to fall. Okay, the Greeks came in. Alexander the Greek, I don't call him the Great, there's nothing real great about him. They started calling it Egypt, and he left his General Ptolemy there, and that's a whole history. But what these quote unquote students of history say, the black pharaohs were rulers of Egypt during the 25th dynasty. Okay, and the 25th dynasty was from like 747 to 656 BC. Okay, a period when the kingdom of Kush, modern day Sudan, extended its influence over Egypt. These rulers are often referred to as Kushite pharaohs, and their reign marked an era of revitalization and cultural exchange between Egypt and its southern neighbor. And they named some of the well-known pharaohs of that era, of that dynasty. Pianki, who was the founder. Okay, he came into Egypt, you know, and he unified Kushite. He unified it under Kushite rule, starting from Nubia, Shabaka. He strengthened the dynasty. Taharka, he's one of the most famous so-called black pharaohs, known for his military campaigns and monumental construction projects and what have you. It's the 25th dynasty. That's very late in Egypt's history, which date back some 3,000 years, according to, of course, Egyptologists. It actually probably dates back some 10,000 years. And the reason they can't find the primitive state of Egypt, because Egypt came into existence at the height of its technological adulthood. There was the 4th dynasty, the 5th dynasty, the well-known 18th dynasty. I got something here. The 25th dynasty, the 18th dynasty, which is probably one of the most well-known dynasties. Okay, and what you have to understand about Egypt's southern neighbor and Kemet to the north is that these were their cousins. And that, you know, you have to look at it like you look at Britain and America. All right, they're basically their descendants. That's why they came into existence at the height of their technological adulthood, because they came out of the south and moved north with this technology all in place. That's why Egyptologists can't find Egypt's primitive state, because they don't know where to look. Okay, and you have the 18th dynasty, which was an African dynasty. The dynasties from the 1st dynasty probably up until after the 25th dynasty were all black Africans. It wasn't until the Ptolemies and what other groups came in, some of the Asians and what have you. And when some of these groups came in, Kemet's cousins, Nubia, Kush, and what have you from the south, came up and helped run these people out and put the Africans back on the throne. That's why you had people like Hatshepsut in the 18th dynasty, who was the longest reigning woman of an indigenous dynasty. Thutmose III, a skilled warrior who expanded Egypt's empire. Amenhotep III, who built the Luxor temple. Okay? And the precinct of Montu at Karnak in his mortuary temple. Amenhotep IV, who changed his name to Akhenaten to honor the Egyptian god Ra. Okay? And of course, Akhenaten is considered the founder of monotheism. And of course, Tutankhamun, whose tomb was discovered and robbed by Howard Carter in 1922. Then you had the 19th dynasty, which was another very significant dynasty. And why was it so significant? Well, one of their most well-known pharaohs was one that we call, with great reverence, the great ancestor. and that's Ramses. And he's without a doubt probably the most important figure in the history of ancient Egypt. And when you consider that the list of pharaohs includes some of the greatest names in history, it says a lot to place Ramses at the top of that list. Hey, Bessie, I see you. Pharaoh Seti named Ramses II his firstborn prince regent, heir to the throne when he was 14 years old. And stop believing that crap in movies, because there was never any competition for the throne or for his father's affection from some fictional character named Moses. Now, due to his father's intense training, Ramses was a military commander at 16. Under Seti's tutelage, he gained the skills and character to sit on the throne while he was still a teenager. This was centuries before the 25th dynasty and the so-called Black Pharaohs. Ramses sat on the throne at 25 years old and ruled until his death at 91. He ruled 66 years, the longest ruling pharaoh in the history of Egypt. And he expanded the empire, built temples, monuments, and cities. And by the time Ramses sat on the throne, the 19th dynasty, which was the second dynasty of the New Kingdom era, all right, the 18th century being the first, it was the second dynasty of the New Kingdom era. All right, they were so advanced by that time that Ramses could look over, you know, the landscape of the empire and say, see that empty spot there? Build me a city. Okay? And within 10 years, his craftsmen, architects, and builders would have a city up and running. So when you talk about the Black Pharaohs, do a little more studying. Because it didn't start with the 25th dynasty, it started with the first. I'm Patrice Gibbs. It's a dope and I. WHGE, there you go, WHGE, 95.3 FM. What's up, Brother Lawrence? I see you there. All right. Yeah. FAFO. F around and find out. Okay? You jump up making a bunch of promises you have no intention of keeping. Yeah. FAFO. And these people voted for the tangerine terrorists on the premises that he was going to lower food prices. Meanwhile, him and his cronies are just salivating, waiting until they get in office so they can steal. And you know what they're going to steal? They're going to steal your Social Security money. Now, you know that they talk about, we gotta make tough decisions. Make tough decisions about, about the budget and, where this money's gone and what have you. And how high the deficit gets. And, it's something that we don't look at the fact that every time Republicans get in office, the deficit goes higher. And Democrats come in and have to fix the economy after Republicans F it up real bad. F around and find out. Oh, I'm going to lower grocery prices. That's what the tangerine terrorists said. They even got elected now. And you know, it's going to be really tough. There's probably nothing I can be able to do about it. Okay? And when you're not smart, you go messing with people that you ain't got no business messing with. Like Doug Ford. Now, who is Doug Ford? I'm going to try and tell you who he is. All right. Doug Ford is the Ontario Premier. Of course, you know, Trump has been talking about putting tariffs on everybody and everything. Well, Doug Ford said, come on with it. All right, because y'all forgot how much energy your northern states get from Canada. And his response is, we're going to turn your ass off. You're going to be sitting up in the dark in New York City, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in Detroit, Michigan. These countries, these states bordering Canada. You say, yeah, come on with it. F-A-F-O with me. And cut your ass off. And what you don't understand is what happens with these tariffs. And with Social Security. I think I saw Joy Reid who had broke this down. I'm a major fan, but how much of the national budget or the national deficit is caused by Social Security? None. Social Security, implemented by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, is a forced saving program. When you look at your check and they take Social Security out of your check every pay period, and have been doing so since you've been working. And this money is supposed to support your retirement. Okay? But what have they done? They keep pushing up the age that you're going to be eligible. And they're talking about 70 years old. Cutting Social Security payments and this, that, and that. See, these are reverse Robin Hoods. Steal from the poor and give to the rich. A technique perfected by the Republican demon Ronald Reagan. Made roasted hell, made the devil sodomize him with a pitchfork. Cut taxes on the rich. Raise taxes on goods and services that everyday people need. And they funnel that money right up to the rich. And I'll tell you about your dumbass with that in a minute. That's right. Like I said, now, the orange disaster, well, he said there's probably not a lot he's going to be able to do about grocery prices, which was his big promise. Yes, that, like Steven said, we have to pay our Medicare premium with our Social Security. And Social Security, because of Ronald Reagan, made worse than hell, and the devil sodomizing with a pitchfork, is now taxed. That's your retirement money. They taxing it now. And they want to push the age limit up to 70 years old. Shit, some of us don't even live to be 70. Because they don't want you to get that money. Because they want to steal it. And that's what they've been doing all along. Damn. And y'all call woke a bad thing. WHGE 95.3 FM, Dope and I. All right. I'm Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist. All right. You know, one of the reasons that I was so adamant about not seeing the orange disaster in office was his declaration that he would give cops immunity across the board. And when I talked about that, one name that I often mentioned was Sonia Macy, who was murdered by a cop. Okay? And of course, the judge that, put him in jail for these charges decided to give him a bond, but the prosecutors went to the Supreme Court, and so that gratefully that bastard, the murderous bastard, was still sitting in jail. But the orange disaster said he would get cops immunity across the board. And you have to worry about what that means. That's going to drag us back to pre-civil rights era. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, I heard these MAGA people, MAGA nuts, complaining about, and even some so-called woke people complaining about Sleepy Joe Biden giving his son a pardon. Let me tell you something. I wouldn't give a damn what my son did short of murder. If that was me, I would definitely let his ass out. You could believe that. That's his son. I'm not giving him any excuses. I don't particularly agree that, his son should have been set free. But if my daddy was the president and he didn't get me out of jail, I'd have some harsh words for him. Damn, daddy, come on, man. We can do this. Yeah. Now, of course, on the lower end of our economic structure, we have people that have to deal with everyday things. And part of that has become people who declare themselves, who deputize themselves, and then think it's all right to go around and oppress black people. They have that authority. They deputize themselves. So you find yourself in the wrong neighborhood, you get someone who has deputized themselves come up asking for your freedom papers. Okay? Where you have a situation where you get into something with someone, and these people who have deputized themselves want to jump in and kill you. These are the type of people that the orange disaster would let go. Damn, this thing, Daniel Penny, is celebrating his freedom after a New York City jury acquitted him in the subway choking death of Jordan Neely. Neely's father, Andre Zachary, expressed heartbreak. He said, my son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. It really hurts. Zachary said in the aftermath of the verdict. According to the New York Post, Zachary had an outburst in the courtroom when he learned his son's murderer, he wasn't charged with murder, he was charged with aggravated manslaughter or something. The fix was in. People clapped in celebration. And of course, Mr. Zachary, Jordan Neely's father, was kicked out of the courtroom after yelling at a person who applauded Penny getting off. What are we going to do, people? What's going to happen to us now? I had enough of this. The system is rigged. Come on, people, let's do something about this. How dare you laugh and cheer when someone gets away with murdering us? racist, burn in hell. That's the words of a hurt father. Perhaps foreshadowing the outcome, last week the jury was deadlocked over whether Penny, a former Marine, should be found guilty of manslaughter. Jordan Neely was known as a subway performer who also had previous mental health challenges. During the conflict that led to his death, Neely had been yelling that he wasn't concerned about whether he lived and that he was hungry and thirsty. And you have people like these right-wing pundits and what have you justifying Penny murdering Jordan Neely. Justifying it. Like he deserved it. Of course, how many times have I told you that mental illness, and believe that he suffered from mental illness, in black people especially, is a crime punishable by public lynching. The district attorney did a good job, but the jury in this case let us down, said Dante Mills, the attorney for Jordan Neely's family. Mills vowed to keep pressing forward with a civil suit against Daniel Penny that seek damages for Neely's death, citing negligence, assault, and battery. And what feels like a reflection of collective exhaustion over the unnamed deaths of black people, supporters of Jordan Neely took to social media to express outrage over no one being held criminally responsible for his death. Neely's killing raises concerns about the vigilantism in an era of increasingly political and social violence. He deserved compassion, dignity, and protection, not the brutality that led to his death. His killing underscores the urgent and overdue need for a complete overhaul at how we address mental health crisis and homelessness. Jordan Neely was unarmed. He needed support and care. That was from Jasmine Crockett. Instead, he received a death sentence. His family grieves while the man who took his life walks free. Crockett added, "This is more than a miscarriage of justice. It is a green light for more violence against unarmed black Americans." WHGE 95.3 FM, Dove and I. This is Dove and I on WHGE 95.3 FM, the advocacy education station. All right. Socialism scares the hell out of the ignorant. Don't know what it is. Because wanting everyone to have health care and food does not make you a communist, a socialist, or unpatriotic. It makes you a decent person. Well, we mourn the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Gunned down. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. We mourn the deaths of the 68,000 Americans who needlessly die each year so that insurance company execs like Brian Thompson can become multimillionaires. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now, to the McDonald's employee who snitched on Luigi? Did you get a raise? Paid time off? Health insurance? And good luck getting the reward money from the NYPD. No, you didn't get a raise. You got fired for dialing 911 on company time. And because you drew attention, what McDonald's considered bad attention, to that particular McDonald's, and people going on online to give reviews on that McDonald's, and give them 1-star reviews. 1-star reviews, yep. Because they had a rat in that McDonald's. Don't eat there. Yeah, that's what they're saying. Oh, and as for the reward money, what you probably could use. I'm sure you could. You working at McDonald's. Maybe you needed that money to pay out some of your own healthcare problems. But there was a technicality. You didn't dial the tip line. You dialed 911. So, it makes me think of some of these casinos where you win the big prize and then they say, oh, the machine was broken. You didn't actually win that money. Yeah, you dial 911 instead of the anonymous tip line. So you're not getting no money. Yeah. And meanwhile, America has a healthcare system that if you're fortunate enough to get into, can bankrupt you. But if you're not, you have to make a choice between food and actually getting your illness treated. It's right here in America. Yeah. You have to make choices. Mm-hmm. The craziest thing, last year the United States spent $4.8 trillion on healthcare alone. That's an enormous number. To put it into perspective, if you took the top 10 richest men on the planet and added together all their net worths, you wouldn't have half. So what this country spent on healthcare in just 1 year, healthcare spending accounts for somewhere between 15 and 18% of our country's entire GDP. That's gross domestic product. What that means is that 1 in every $6 spent in this country is spent on healthcare. All right? The U.S. spends far and away more than any other healthy nation on the planet. And in exchange for this exorbitant amount of money, the United States receives the worst health care of any wealthy nation on the planet. And a survey of 10 wealthy nations in the United States ranked dead last. When it came to health outcomes and access to care, and the second to last, when it comes to administrative efficiency and equity, the United States is the worst when it comes to, things like life expectancy and infant mortality and safety during pregnancy and diabetes management. America is spending all this money. Where the hell is it going? Well, it's going to administrative costs. The United States spends more than double the next highest wealthy nation in administrative costs. All right. The money is going to, among other devious entities, health insurers. Let me say it again. We mourn the deaths of 68,000 Americans who needlessly die each year so that health insurance company execs like Brian Thompson can become millionaires. No wonder there was no sympathy, no empathy, even some celebration. The health insurance industry recorded net profits, not gross, but net profits $25 billion in 2023, 2022, while a lot of you are rationing your insulin and your inhalers. CEOs of just 7 health insurers took home $335 million. When the health insurance industry has spent $117 million on lobbying the government to keep this system in place. And that was just last year alone, $117 million. To be clear, they are robbing you. And they are keeping you and the people you love the most sick and in pain to do it. The reason that they're doing this is because they believe that you're too dumb or too weak to do anything about it. And every day that we labor under the system, we prove them right. The time for Medicare for all was 80 years ago. Every other wealthy nation on this planet figured that out. Why hasn't America? Why not? Why hasn't America figured that out? Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Here's a little history lesson. In 1890, Frederick Hoffman, a Prudential, 1890, said if we simply avoid allowing black people access to health care within 2-3 generations, the entire race will die out. Teddy Roosevelt in 1912, national health care system, no black people would benefit from it. Franklin Roosevelt, his healthcare system, no. Truman in 47, try it again. Congress said no, because black people would benefit from it. LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, 1965, with the Medicare and Medicaid Act. No national health care, and it will be run by private corporations, and black people will have to pay 20% up front. The 20% prepay, it was decided, would greatly discourage black people from going to the hospital. This is how and why co-pays were invented. 100% of the reason the United States is the only Western country in the world without a national health care system is, yep, you guessed it, racism. And of course they use bad science, because after the Civil War, the United States searched for ways to redefine itself. But by the 1880s, the hopes of Reconstruction had dimmed. Across the United States, there was indeed a push to formalize, legalize discrimination against African Americans. The effort to marginalize the first generation of free black Americans infiltrated nearly every aspect of daily life, including the cost of insurance. Initially, African Americans could purchase life insurance policies on equal footing with whites. And that all changed in 1881. It was in March of that year that Prudential, one of the country's largest insurers, announced that policies held by black adults would be worth 1/3 less than the same plans held by whites. Paid in the same money, their weekly premiums will remain the same. Benefits for black children didn't change, but weekly premiums for their policies would rise by 5 cents. Okay, and that's a hurting thing in the 1880s. Prudential defended the decision by pointing out that the black mortality rate was higher than the white mortality rate. Damn, you think? And therefore, they explain claims paid out for black policyholders were a disproportionate amount of all payouts. Most of the major life insurance companies followed suit, making it nearly impossible for African Americans to gain coverage. Across the industry, companies blocked agents from soliciting African American customers and denied commission for any policies issued to black people. The public largely accepted the statistical explanation for unequal coverage. The insurer's job was to calculate risk. Race was merely another variable like occupation or geographical location. As one trade publication put it, in 1891, life insurance companies are not Negro maniacs. They are business institutions. There's no sentiment and there's no politics in it. Companies consider race-based risk the same for all African Americans, whether they were strong or sickly, educated or uneducated, from the country or the city. The science behind the risk formula is credited to that bastard Frederick Hoffman, whose efforts to prove the genetic inferiority of the black race were used to justify the company's discriminatory policies. Hoffman had plenty of bad science to work with. Most of the available data on African American health statistics came from Civil War era studies of black and white soldiers. Hospital Administrator J.F. Miller and other researchers consistently claim to have proof of the inherent weakness of the black race. They said they had proof, reporting that the internal organs, including the lungs and brain, weigh less in black people. Damn! Well, they made some stuff up, couldn't they? That our lungs and brains weigh less. And this was made black people more susceptible to diseases like pneumonia and tuberculosis and syphilis. Since most white physicians held the common belief that enslaved blacks had been relatively healthy, this proved that the constitution of the black race was incompatible with freedom. How you like that? Our constitution, our very physicality, was incompatible with freedom. These laws affect him in the air he breathes, the food he eats, the clothes he wears, and every circumstance surrounding his habitation. And the wholesale violation of these laws after the war was laid the foundation of the denigration of the physical and mental constitution of the Negro. Because we were freed, it denigrated our health. And of course, you know, during slavery, they had this thing, this quack that came up with this thing called dystophonia or diptomonia or something like that. And it was a mental health condition that black people suffered from. If you strive for freedom from slavery, you were mentally ill, according to these nuts. Black Americans were more likely to live in poverty and often lack access to medical care. As among the many hardships, still little credence was given to the theory that environmental factors were the reason for the higher black mortality rate. And the crazy thing is, Hoffman's work received widespread coverage. He made it all up. But it got widespread coverage in respected journals, including that of the American Statistical Association, a professional society where Hoffman later served as president. Hoffman predicted that African Americans would eventually die off like the Native Americans before them. Didn't take into account our resiliency. He surmised that they wouldn't be able to survive in civilized society. Nothing civilized about the society. It's just organized barbarity. You know? But black people wouldn't be able to survive outside of the bonds of slavery. Now, the thought was that this theory didn't gain any traction, but it did. Hoffman's work on racialist science behind black mortality rates did have lasting effects. Discriminatory policies based on race were standard in the insurance industry well into the 20th century. In a 1940 survey, over 40% of companies did not accept black policyholders. That's the crap that we put up with. Yeah. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right. Patrice Gibbs here, third eye optometrist. It's from a cat named Chapman, TikTok creator. He said, I've been thinking a lot about how the beginning of the downfall of the American middle class was basically the start of the civil rights movement, or at least when the civil rights movement was officially codified into law. And it's because since the government was no longer able to discriminate on paper by race, social programs evaporated. And think about that. White middle class and lower middle class people stopped supporting social programs once people of color, and I don't do that people of color thing, since black people were allowed to buy in, and those social programs were eradicated over the course of like 2 generations. And now, here we are watching white people reckon with what it's like to have no upward mobility in this country, because before then, all you really had to do if you were white was to have a little bit of ingenuity and a little bit of, like, you know, that get to itness. You'd be fine. From after World War II, the GI Bill and this, that, and the other, up to 1980, you know, if you as a white person, this was America's greatest economic period. And if you as a white person didn't become economically sound during that era, it was either dumb or lazy ass. Man, how could you say that? How could you say that? See, that's the stuff that white people say about black people. Because you had all the advantages in the world. Capitalism requires an exploited class. And in the caste system of America, the face of poverty, even though there are a lot more white people poor than black people, the face of poverty is black. And what whites will tell you is, oh, because they're lazy. Oh, we made it because of meritocracy. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Some of you dumbasses wouldn't be nowhere without the affirmative action. Okay? That was practiced for white people. But now, it's not that way anymore. Because white people let their racism dismantle social programs. They said if black people are going to get them, then nobody should. And now, here we are on the other side of that. And that's what people mean when they say, make America great again. Like, obviously, They want racism back, but they want racism back for that specific reason, so that they can get benefits that you can't. Yeah, that's the reality. The greedy, rich, and stupid, ignorant races that keep them in power. The greedy and the rich and the stupid, ignorant races that keep them in power hold the country back. Lack of investment in infrastructure and societal improvements. Greedy, ultra-corrupt corporatists and corrupt politicians who hoard wealth they don't even spend and keep the populace in debt and poverty. Feed the populace poison and then deny health care. Instead, manage the poison with addictive drugs that eventually kill you. And they seem to make every effort to destroy the environment. The air is not good to breathe, the water is not safe to drink, and it's not safe to walk the streets. But as long as these dumbasses feel they are better off than someone they see as the other, this is acceptable. How many times I tell you, LBJ was right when he said, people don't care if they have substandard education, poor health care, raggedy infrastructure, or shoddy homes, as long as they have somebody to look down on. Freaking idiots. WHGE 95.3 FM, the open eye. All right. All right. I'm Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist. We close them out here. Thank you for joining me. I hope you learned something. I know I did before I got here, as I always tell you. Yes, indeed. Put this thing together. And as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. This has been Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs. Thanks for joining us. All right. Yes, Dee had a good week. Good show, I hope. Hope you enjoyed it. As I always tell you, GAS, Global African Supremacy. The world was a much better place when the African moved. Look at the history.